A'ja Wilson's jersey retirement should have been a historic moment, but instead of celebrating, she's angry and frustrated, not because she's being ignored, but because Caitlin Clark is getting more attention. Wilson's ceremony isn't selling out, while Clark's event has fans paying over $1,000 just for a seat. But here's the real question. Is Wilson's frustration justified, or is this just a case of jealousy? Let's break down why Wilson's legacy isn't generating the same excitement and why Clark is simply the bigger star right now. A'ja Wilson's jersey retirement should be a moment of celebration, a recognition of her contributions to South Carolina basketball and her dominance in the WNBA. But instead of basking in the honor, she's frustrated, and not just frustrated, angry. Not because of something South Carolina did, not because of some internal mistake, but because Caitlin Clark is outshining her. Let's be real. Wilson isn't mad about the jersey retirement itself. She's mad about what it represents. She sees the numbers. She sees that her tickets are selling for as low as $16, and even at that price, they're still struggling to fill seats. She sees that her ceremony, which should be a monumental occasion, isn't attracting nearly the attention it should. Wilson has spent years being positioned as one of the faces of women's basketball. She has the credentials. She's won MVPs, she's won championships, and she's got an Olympic gold medal to her name. South Carolina even gave her a statue, something that most athletes never get in their lifetime, and yet, here we are. When it comes to the excitement surrounding her jersey retirement, the numbers don't lie. People just aren't that interested. She can try to blame it on timing. She can say it's unfair that Clark's retirement is happening at the same time. She can even argue that Clark is getting more media attention than she deserves. But at the end of the day, none of that changes the reality of the situation. Caitlin Clark is the bigger star, and Wilson is struggling to accept that. This isn't about WNBA success versus college success. This isn't about who has more accolades. It's about who moves the needle. Right now, Clark is the one driving interest in women's basketball, while Wilson, despite all her accomplishments, simply isn't. And the truth is, this has been building up for a while. Wilson's frustration didn't just start with this jersey retirement situation. She's been vocal for a long time about how she feels the WNBA and women's basketball in general doesn't get the respect it deserves. She's talked about the disparities in pay, in viewership, in sponsorship deals, and to some extent she has a point. Women's sports have historically struggled for mainstream recognition, but here's the thing, Caitlin Clark has single-handedly changed that conversation. Clark's games are selling out arenas. She's shattering TV ratings. She's drawing massive crowds, not just in Iowa, but everywhere she goes. She's not just a great basketball player. She's an entertainment phenomenon. People who don't normally watch women's basketball are tuning in because of her. She's getting media coverage that no women's player has ever gotten before. Wilson sees that and she doesn't like it, because in her mind, she should be the one getting that level of attention. She's won championships. She's dominated the WNBA. She's proven herself at the highest level. So why isn't she getting the same level of love and admiration that Clark is? The answer is simple. Clark connects with people in a way that Wilson never has. This isn't just about skill. If it were, the conversation would be a lot different. Wilson is an elite player, one of the best in the game, but what Clark has that Wilson doesn't is an undeniable magnetism. People love her energy, her passion, the way she carries herself on and off the court. She makes basketball feel fun. She makes people feel like they're part of something bigger. Wilson, on the other hand, has always had an edge to her. There's a chip on her shoulder. A sense that she constantly feels slighted, like she's not getting what she deserves. That attitude can work in certain situations, but it doesn't make her relatable to casual fans. Instead of drawing people in, it pushes them away. And that's exactly what we're seeing play out right now. Look at how both of their jersey retirements are being handled. Clark's event is a celebration. Fans are treating it like a historic moment, something they can't miss. Wilson's, on the other hand, feels like an obligation. South Carolina is retiring her jersey because, well, they have to. She's their best player ever. But the excitement just isn't there. And you can't blame this on media bias. You can't blame it on some conspiracy to elevate Clark over Wilson. This is what the fans are choosing. They're the ones deciding whose events they want to show up to. They're the ones deciding whose name is worth paying to see. Wilson doesn't like that. She's watching her moment get overshadowed. She's seeing the difference in demand. And deep down she knows that Clark isn't just a passing trend. She's the future of women's basketball. The WNBA has spent years trying to force Wilson into that role, and it's never quite worked. She's had the backing of the league, the media, and some of the biggest names in basketball. And yet, even with all of that, she never generated this kind of excitement. Meanwhile, Clark has done it organically. That's what makes this whole situation so frustrating for Wilson. She spent years fighting for respect, pushing for people to care about the game. And then, seemingly overnight, Clark shows up and makes it all happen effortlessly. That's a hard pill to swallow. But instead of being mad about it, Wilson should be learning from it. She should be looking at what Clark is doing and asking herself, how can I connect with fans in that way? How can I make myself more accessible, more exciting, more engaging? How can I bring the same level of enthusiasm to the game that Clark does? Because right now, the energy between them is night and day. Clark is embracing the spotlight and Wilson is acting like she's being robbed of something she was owed. But no one is owed attention. No one is owed fan support. You have to earn that. Wilson earned respect. She earned championships. She earned accolades. But she never earned love from the casual fan. And that's why we're seeing such a drastic difference in the way their jersey retirements are being treated. So yes, Wilson has every right to be frustrated, but she has no one to blame but herself. If Aja Wilson wants to be remembered as one of the greatest, she needs to understand that basketball isn't just about stats and championships. It's about connection. It's about who people want to watch and who they feel emotionally invested in. And right now, she's losing that battle to Caitlin Clark in a way that's impossible to ignore. Clark has the it factor, that rare ability to make people care about what she's doing. She's not just playing basketball, she's putting on a show. Every time she steps on the court, fans feel like something special is about to happen. And most of the time, they're right. Whether it's a ridiculous deep three, a flashy pass, or an emotional moment that goes viral, Clark has mastered the art of making every game feel like an event. Wilson, on the other hand, plays incredible basketball, but it's not must-see TV in the same way. She's a dominant force in the WNBA, but dominance alone doesn't bring excitement. People want entertainment, they want engagement, they want personality. Clark has all of that, and Wilson doesn't showcase it the same way. This is why the difference in their jersey retirements is so glaring. It's not about disrespect toward Wilson. It's about the simple fact that Clark's name sells. It puts people in seats. It generates headlines. It moves the needle. Wilson, for all of her greatness, just hasn't built that kind of fan loyalty. And if you don't believe that, just look at the reaction when both of their jersey retirements were announced. Clark's announcement was met with immediate hype. Fans marking their calendars, ticket prices skyrocketing, people already planning their trips to Iowa City. Wilson's, on the other hand, barely registered outside of hardcore South Carolina fans. That's the issue. It's not about accomplishments, it's about interest. Wilson might feel like she should be getting the same level of attention, but the truth is she hasn't put in the same level of effort to make herself a brand the way Clark has. And that's not just about basketball, it's about media presence, about social engagement, about giving people a reason to care beyond the game itself. Look at the way Clark interacts with the public. She's constantly giving fans moments to latch onto. She plays with fire. She celebrates every shot like it's a game winner. She gets into it with opponents in a way that makes for great drama. She's always at the center of the action, and even when she's not on the court, she's making sure people are talking about her. Wilson, on the other hand, has always taken a more serious approach. She's vocal when it comes to WNBA issues. She fights for equality. She speaks her mind. But she doesn't have that infectious energy that makes people want to rally around her. She's respected, but she's not loved in the same way Clark is. And that's why this whole situation is unfolding the way it is. Clark's fans are obsessive in their support. They will pay insane amounts of money just to be in the same building as her. Wilson's fans, while loyal, don't show up in the same way, and that's what truly separates the two. This isn't about who's the better player. This isn't even about who deserves more recognition. This is about who has built a connection with the public and who hasn't. Wilson has had the WNBA pushing her as the face of the league for years, and yet it's Clark who has completely redefined what mainstream attention looks like for women's basketball. And let's be real, that has to sting. Wilson has spent years grinding in the WNBA, trying to prove that the league deserves more respect, fighting to grow the game, doing all the right things. And now here comes Clark, still in college, and she's already bigger than anything the WNBA has ever seen. That's a tough pill to swallow, but instead of being bitter about it, Wilson should be taking notes. She should be figuring out how she can elevate herself beyond just basketball and make herself a true cultural icon, the way Clark has done so effortlessly. Because here's the truth, Clark isn't an anomaly. She's not just a lucky case of someone being in the right place at the right time. She's been working at this for years, building her brand, growing her fan base, making herself into something bigger than just a great player. Wilson had that opportunity, but somewhere along the way, she didn't capitalize on it the same way Clark has. And now she's paying the price. Look at the WNBA's efforts to market Wilson compared to Clark. The league has been pushing Wilson as a face of the WNBA for years, but it's never truly clicked on a mainstream level. They've tried. They've put her in commercials, promoted her heavily, done everything they could to make her the superstar she deserves to be, but it never took off. Clark, on the other hand, hasn't even entered the league yet, and she's already the most marketable player women's basketball has ever seen. That's not an accident. That's not unfair. That's just reality. And Wilson's reaction to all of this is telling. Instead of celebrating her own success, instead of embracing her jersey retirement as a special moment, she's caught up in comparison. She's watching Clark's moment be bigger, and she's letting it ruin what should be a legendary moment for her own career. And that's a mistake. Instead of worrying about what Clark is doing, Wilson should be figuring out how to make herself just as big of a draw. She should be asking why fans are so much more excited about Clark than they are about her. She should be looking in the mirror and recognizing that she needs to do more than just play great basketball. She needs to be someone that people feel emotionally connected to, because that's what Clark has mastered. And that's why, right now, Clark's jersey retirement is the talk of the basketball world, while Wilson's is an afterthought. Wilson is a great player, no doubt about it, but greatness alone doesn't sell tickets. It doesn't create moments. It doesn't make history in the same way that captivating personalities do. Clark gets that, Wilson doesn't.